Hi, I'm Rachel Abbasi. Welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. As always, thanks for spending time with me. Hello, happy Wednesday. I don't think I recorded yesterday. I don't even know. I was thinking about it. I'm like, I think I forgot. I think I just forgot. So I'm making a video for Disability Pride Month for the Vestibular Disorders Association. And I think in my head I've been wrapped up in that. And and I'm also preparing a booth per se, a table for a craft show in October. And I'm really excited about that too. So I think my brain was just elsewhere. So here we are today. Anyway, this morning I wanted to talk about step 2 and becoming willing to believe. It's interesting because over the years, I feel like my understanding of the purpose of step 2 has shifted a bit. So, for those of you who are not aware, step 2 is we came to believe in a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Excuse me, coffee. So I've had lots of thoughts on this over the years. Like originally I hated the word sanity, like insinuating that I'm not sane. I was offended by that. I've come to believe that I was not sane when I was drinking. I think back like going through the steps and going through my role in my relationships and my resentments and making amends and all of that. I have come to understand that my thinking was way, way screwed up when I was drinking. So I've I've accepted that term's sanity in the step. But coming to believe in a power greater than ourselves is an interesting choice of words. And I don't want to hang out too long with just talking about the word choices, but more so about what I've received from the step. Um, Originally, when I first started going to AA and seeing a counselor, I don't think I was seeing she might have been an addiction counselor. Um, but I would talk to her about searching for this power greater than myself, and I remember talking to her. I just didn't get it because I was still drinking, so I didn't get it. I was talking to her about how, oh, well, I hear that my higher power can be whatever I choose. And I was talking about how there was a woman in early sobriety. Her higher power was the sun. And there's other people whose higher power is something else in nature. And I've heard people say, your higher power could be a doorknob. Your higher power, you can borrow mine until you can find your own, kind of thing. But I was missing the point. And the point is to find a source of hope. And so I disagree with a doorknob can be your higher power because I don't believe a doorknob, unless you are insane. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, kind of. Um, a doorknob can't be a source of hope. Something outside of myself can be a source of hope if I have an open mind and willingness to believe that there is a solution. There's something outside of myself that can provide the solution. So step two provides the possibility. It introduces the possibility that help exists, that hope exists. And before I stopped drinking, I thought I had to understand everything before I believed in it. I thought I had to go to these meetings and understand and agree with everything that I was hearing in the big book. And I thought I was going to I was waiting to be convinced that there is a God of my understanding. And what I mean by that is I've I've always wanted to believe in God. I've talked about this before. I've always wanted to believe in God, but I didn't understand it. I didn't know how to become convinced. And I've learned in the program over over the early sobriety that I just needed to have the willingness to consider that there might be another way other than my way. That was what I needed in the beginning. That was all that needed to happen was willingness. So that was the difference for me to stop drinking, that willingness. Because when I was out in San Francisco and I was contemplating getting a drink, and I was walking around and around the block of my hotel over and over and over again, telling myself, nobody would know. Nobody would know. I'll just go drink. Nobody would know. When I stopped in my tracks and realized what I would know, and if I'm going to be willing to go all in on step two on this coming to believe, then my higher power would know. And that is what kept me from drinking that day. And I believe to this very day that willingness, that pivotal point in my faith, because faith, willingness is included in faith. Willingness to believe is faith. And that pivotal moment in my life, I think, saved my life. I believe that my willingness to believe saved my life, because I would have drank if I didn't come to that realization. So that makes me smile. It does, because am I convinced yet that there's a higher power? I don't know if I'm ever going to be convinced, because to be convinced means that I have to see it, you know? Maybe when I pass and I'm standing at the pearly gates, I'll be convinced. But what I needed instead was hope. I needed there to be something. I needed hope before evidence, hope without evidence. I, I was looking for so long for proof in order to believe. And if I were to talk to other people around me who are churchgoers and believers, the proof for them is the Bible. And I don't know why I would question the Bible. I guess because it's a book. I don't know. I don't know. And I'm still early enough that I can talk about this stuff and not feel terribly guilty about it. Um, but I, for so long, was looking for proof before I believed. And what I, what I recognized in that pivotal moment of willingness was that I needed to believe without proof. And if that meant, as I heard in the program, that I borrow hope from other people, which might have been part of the seed of willingness to have that moment, was that, well, other people are here, and this book tells me that this has provided the hope that other people needed to get sober and stay sober. These people who've already been living the life that I wanted, the sober life, that kind of became my evidence that change is possible. That didn't kind of, it became my evidence that change is possible. So I became convinced of their faith, right? Um, my experience with my relationship with a higher power is that I have been coming to believe for 10 years. And the willingness has turned into proof, experiential proof that I can with the help of my higher power. I don't need my willpower. I need my willingness to have faith, to rely on that faith, willingness to start to rely on it. Um, and that's when the hope got stronger. In my stroke recovery, I leaned stronger on that. I leaned back on that memory of standing in San Francisco and thinking that I was alone and then realizing that I wasn't alone. Um, that willingness came back again. And that's when I recognized I've got to lean into my faith again, stronger. I've got to go, I've got to go heavier on it. And that's when I got very excited to start going to church, because if I'm going to lean harder, I need to understand more, because I'm still coming to believe. And I think that coming to believe, like right now, and maybe I'll change my mind, there's a bird about a foot from my face on the other side of the window. I don't know what kind of bird it is. It's brown and speckled, and it's looking right at me. And it's pretty cute. It's got a really long beak, which makes me think it's a woodpecker, but it doesn't have any red on it, so I'm not quite sure. So shiny coin, but it's pretty amazing to be that close to wildlife. It's listening to me. Maybe it's interested in the podcast. Um, so leaning harder, going to church, it's literally hanging out with us. Okay. So it just flew away. So my experience with a higher power was that the more I believe, the more hope I have. And the more control I try to gain, the less control I realize I have. So I didn't have any chance of emotionally recovering from my stroke without faith. I am certain of that. So when I come to this this point where I need certainty, that I need to be convinced, there's two things I am convinced of. I'm sober because I was willing to have faith. And I am I have regained a sense of serenity and joy and hope in my life. Hope being really the focus back then in early stroke recovery. I've regained hope because of my willingness to have faith. And that time between my stroke and being willing to lean further into my faith is, I believe, where that insanity started coming back in again. Because when I start looking inward for solutions, um, it's like I'm walking around in a prison cell trying to find the exit. And there is none. The bars are everywhere on all four walls. And that is the insanity. But when I remember the willingness to have faith will save me, my belief didn't change anything. My willingness to have faith didn't change the fact that I had a stroke. It didn't change the fact early on, when I was in San Francisco, my willingness to have faith didn't change the fact that there was nobody with me. But the willingness to have faith all of a sudden opened up the door to that cell and showed me what the next right thing is. The one thing that I can do to move towards hope. And for me, that was picking up the phone and calling a psychiatrist and scheduling an appointment. That's what I needed to do. And I needed to talk to somebody about the insanity, because that's what it felt like. I don't know that I can ever articulate well the fear that I have felt since my stroke. It is it is like, I'll try. I'll try. It's like the world that I had known for 50 years. Well, okay, 46 years, because I had my stroke when I was 46, which is unbelievable, but it happened. The world that I had known for 46 years consisted of what I could see. I mean, yes, I know that there's this big earth and there's all these people on it, but the world that I needed to engage with, the world that I felt safe in, was the world that I could see, the world that I interacted with, whether it was my walking into the building of my job, my home, my neighborhood, um, you know, my family, my friends. Like, that was the world that I felt safe in. And when I had my stroke, it was like my world, the walls of my world just crumbled. And I felt like and still feel today, like I'm exposed to all of the dangers and fear and loneliness and everything. And I no longer felt safe. The world got a whole lot bigger. And that's the best way that I can describe it. But when I started leaning back into faith, stronger, not leaning back, but leaning stronger into it, I started to understand that that big, scary world is not mine to control. Is that no matter how big my fear is, I still have this one thing that protects me. And my willingness to believe that that is there rebuilds that imaginary wall around me, that trust, like trusting in something greater than myself. Um, this principle applies regardless of the circumstances today. Like the gift of step two, which again, remember, this was introduced to me when I was drinking 24/7 and was going to die from my drinking. I mean, my organs were not working anymore. We'll just say. So I had hopelessness and I was blinded by the very disease that I had to possibility, to faith. So step two, I needed this fellowship to tell me that there is something greater than you. Because I felt, it's so selfish, this disease. Like I felt like I was I was that wall, that prison. Like I was the wall. I was the walls and the prison itself, and I was trapped inside. That was self-reliance. And by being introduced to step two, I was introduced to, wait a minute, stop looking inward and start looking outward. Replace the self-reliance with the willingness and openness to believe that there's something outside of yourself that will provide the solution for your life, for your fears. Have trust. My fears turned into trust, but it's a shaky, shaky trust. So today, I do believe that I don't need to know how things are going to work out in my life. I only need to have willingness to take the next step and trust that I'm not alone. Just the willingness, not the belief necessarily. I have to have the willingness to believe, the open-mindedness. And that's how I continue to be restored to my concept of sanity, my concept of my own sanity. You know what's funny, and I'll leave you with this, is that my concept of my own sanity might be very different than your concept of sanity. So I may still be insane. I don't think I am, but if nothing else, I'm less insane than I used to be. For sure. That's for sure. So, thanks for joining me today, and I will talk to you next time.